This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. And next today you're going to see with recursion. We're going to start with recursion. So what is recursion? You people might have came across this term, right? So what is it? Come on. What is recursion? Recursion is implementation of function. What is it?
పట్టుకోమన్న ఏం వద్దు వచ్చేటప్పుడు లగేజ్ పట్టుకుంటూ రావాలి నేను మళ్ళీ అందుకే
Come on. Someone has unmuted. Guys, what is recursion, ma? People might have came across. Just give the answer for it. No idea.
Repeating.
Yes, come on, repeat it.
Repeating, ma'am. Recursion means.
Good. Repeating. So repeating in the sense here, what is it is normally when the function will be invoked here, and now a program we have seen yesterday, like we have written a program like int main, and we are going to have a function inside it. So let us assume that we are going to have like a function like void sum, and we are going to have some statement inside this. Okay, so when this function will be called, if at all you don't have a function call inside your main, this function will never be called, right? So here we are going to call a function from a main. So instead of being in main, if at all you're going to call a function inside it, you're going to be inside it, you're going to call a function here. So it is all about recursion, the function which call itself. So yesterday we have seen it, the function call is made here. When the function call made here, it goes up, the statement inside this function is executed, and after this it comes to the next line. Okay, so whenever the function call is placed inside the function itself, when a function call itself, it is all about recursion. Clear? Function calling itself. It is recursion. So whenever you are dealing with a recursion, we are supposed to see with two main cases. Okay, so those are all about recursive case and termination case. They'll be saying about these two cases. One is recursive case and other is a termination case. Recursive case and termination case. So here when a function is going to call the same function again, so it will be an infinite call, right? So if I put some here, what happened when your main calls, it goes here, followed by it will come to here, this particular function will be called, and this function call happens, again it comes up, again this function call happens, this comes up. So what we are concentrating on, we are doing the recursive call. Here what is that we are doing? Recursive case, right? So here what happens when this function is going to terminate, we don't have any idea for it about the termination about this particular program. We don't have any idea about this. Is going to call again, no termination is going to happen. So your program should concentrate on termination case also. Two things has to be considered when you're coming to the recursion. In case of recursion, you're supposed to concentrate on recursive case as well as termination case. When the program has to be terminated and when the function has to be called again. So these two cases has to be considered. Here this function I have given an example in order to make you understand what is recursion. A function calling itself is called recursion, and near function recursion you'll have these two cases has to be considered. One is your recursive case and other is a termination case. These are the two cases we are supposed to consider. So we'll see a small program for it. We'll take a very common example for it, which is all about factorial. You might have came across this particular program, factorial. So this program can be written by using recursion and without using recursion. We'll see an example with using recursion and without using recursion. Let us assume that if a number 5 is assigned for the particular variable name called n. So what is that you are going to do for factorial? You're going to mention 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. That could be the result of it. Okay, so this program for writing logic for this can be written in two ways. One is by using recursion and other is non-recursion, right? So let me write by using non-recursion as a general one. Okay, so let me write the general logic for it. So whenever you are writing the general logic, what you'll be doing it, you'll be mentioning for I assign n followed by I less than, so for I greater than or equal to 1 followed by I minus minus. And here you can do one thing. Just assume that there is one variable called factorial in your program. So let me write the complete program, guys. If I main, so just a minute. So let me take this one to the editor. It'll be easy for me to compile and show you. So instead of typing here, we can execute and see both the cases. Just a minute. Better, I'll do one thing. I'll share the entire screen, guys. Okay, just give me a minute alone. Okay, now it has changed. Okay, fine. So let me save this file. Just give me a minute. So previous, where is our college here? So it is all about factorial. So let me mention fact.c. So here, so let me write a very common program. So it is all about factorial without using recursion. So here as of now, let me assign number value is 5. We are supposed to write a logic for 5 factorial. So we'll have a iterator for I value assign n and I greater than or equals to 1 followed by I minus minus. So here inside this, what is that you're supposed to do? You're supposed to find a factorial of it. So let us declare one variable called fact. Let us keep this initial value as 1. What is that you're going to do? We are going to do the product of the particular I value. So I value is going to start with your 5 and it's going to keep on reduce like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 until it reaches 1. This loop is going to be executed. And here I'm going to display the factorial result. This is a very common program, guys, very generic one where we'll be writing, very simple one. So here, let me print it. So now let us execute it. So when I execute it, what happened? The product of this particular, which means the factorial of this particular number 5 will be displayed as 120 as your answer. Okay. So the same program we are going to write by using function. Okay, by using function, that too by using recursion. So here what did I say? Whenever I say recursion, this is all about a function calling itself is a recursion, right? So we'll write by using function here. So let me copy the same logic. So let's same skeleton here, whatever the variable is required. So here, so let me save it. Like fact by using recursion. Okay, so let me have a function name factorial where I'm going to pass this number as a parameter. Okay, so this is the skeleton of the particular program. So let us have the function called factorial. So the return type of the function, what I'm going to mention is we can just print there. Okay, no, can mention int. Okay, either you can print there or you can just return it. It's completely up to you. Let me mention int followed by factorial of number. So this is done. So here, what is that I'm going to do is here we are going to call this particular function again. The factorial function, I'm going to call it again. Okay, so when I'm going to terminate it, I'm going to terminate it when I reaches 1. So what is the logic I'm going to write here is I'm going to call this factorial function again. So first what happened? So it is literally like what is that we are going to do? 5 into 4. Okay, the original number into 4. Again 4 into 3. I'm going to do product of it, right? So here I'm going to call this particular factorial. Okay, I'm going to call this factorial recursively. Recursively in the sense I'm going to have a function call again here. Okay, so what is that I'm going to mention is n into factorial of n minus 1, the given number minus 1. So what happened initially? The given number is 5. So 5 into factorial of 4. Again, this function, same function is going to be called with 4. Again, 4 into factorial of 3. So this function will be called again. So this is all about the recursive case. I told you about 2 cases, right? So whenever we are writing a recursion function, we are supposed to concentrate on recursive case as well as termination case. So this particular factorial is going to happen again until when? Until your number becomes 1. Or you can just make it as 0. Until your number becomes 0, you can just make it. It's completely up to you, your termination condition. Here, what is the termination condition I'm doing here is, if my number value is greater than or equal to 1, I can just call this function. Else, I can just return 1 as your output. Okay, what is it I'm doing? And whenever my number is greater than or equals to 1, I'm going to have a function called again. So whenever it reaches 0, it comes to the else part, and this particular 1 will be returned. So this is the logic for factorial by using recursion. So if you execute it, you'll be getting the same answer. Execution wise, you'll never find different for the common logic and this. So what happens here? We are supposed to print it, right? Just a minute, something is missing here. We'll try to print it, and this statement has to be given by using return. Okay, just a minute. We are supposed to print it. Let me print it. Printf fact. Since the particular function is going to return some value, we are supposed to print it. So let me execute it. You'll be getting the same result, guys. Result wise, you'll never get any difference. What happened, Windows? Just a minute, we'll check to it. What is the mistake we made here? Number initialization is done. Okay, followed by the function called number. That is fine. So here, I made a mistake, guys. Sorry for it. So number into factorial of number minus 1. Okay. So the given number into factorial of number minus 1. This is how we are supposed to write it. So during explanation, I just typed there. So same way I just written a program. So here what happens? 120 for the previous execution also we got the 120 as an answer. But what happens here is, so whenever you're executing this program, it occupies extra memory. The reason is whenever you are using this recursion where memory is allocated in your stack. Whenever you are using recursion, what happens? Memory is allocated in your stack. So here you people might be getting doubt. Why not this? Here for this, what happened? Only one variable you are storing the data. But here that is not so the case. Each and every process has been stored in a stack memory. I'll explain you step by step, guys. Okay, just a minute. So let me take this part alone and let me explain you by using Excel. Okay, so it'll be easy for you to understand. Just a minute. So let me place this part of code here. So we assume that the given number is 5, right? So when the given number is 5, the function call happens. I'll check whether the number is greater than or equals to 1. Yes, the number is greater than or equals to 1. Our condition is true. Here what happens? 5. Okay, so right now what is it called? Fact of given number is 5. Fact of 5 is called. For this fact of 5, this 5 is passed here, and I'm checking 5 greater than or equals to 1. So what happens? 5 into fact of 5 minus 1. So what happens here? For fact of 5, this is called. Fact of 5 minus 1. Again, fact of 4 is called. So here we are not having the answer as of now. The same function is called again. The same factorial is called with the value 4. So if you know the 4 factorial, then only I can able to calculate the 5 factorial. So until you find the answer for 4 factorial, this data will be stored in your stack memory. This data will be stored in your stack memory. Now fact of 4 is called. Again the same function is called here. So when you call the same function again I'm going to check 4 greater than or equals to 1. My condition is true. It will come here number. So what is right now number? The parameter number passed is 4. So 4 into fact of 4 minus 1. So if at all you want to know the 4 factorial, I should know what is the value of 3 factorial, right? So I'll mention fact of 4 minus 1 is 3. Again, the same function fact of 3 is called. So I'll pass here. Fact of 3 is passed here. Okay. Now when I come here, 3 greater than or equals to 1, our condition is true. Again, what happened? 3 into fact of 3 minus 1. So now what happened? The same factorial condition is passed. Is called again, right? So again what happened? Fact of 2 will be called. So what happens here? 2 into, your condition is 2, right? 2 greater than or equals to 1. So 2 into fact of 2 minus 1 is 1. So this is done. Again, fact of 1. Again, the same factorial function is called with the value 1. 1 greater than or equals to 1. Our condition is true. So what happened? Fact of 1. It will be invoked with 1. Just a minute. 1 into fact of 1 minus 1. So here I am supposed to write the expression, right? If at all I am writing an expression, it will be easy for you people during a calculation. Okay. So 1 minus 1 is a factorial calculation here. So where do I write? Why it is not reflecting? Okay. So 1 minus 1. So this will be done. So whenever it is coming for fact of 0. So fact of 0 is a termination case. As I told you that we are supposed to consider the termination case, right? So whenever we reach a 0, that is our termination case. So here 0 greater than or equals to 1, my condition is false. Whenever my condition is false, what is that you're going to return? It is going to return 1 as your output. So literally what is that? We know that 0 factorial will give you 1. Okay, so we are finding 0 factorial. Factorial of 0 is 1. Now, till this where these data are saved. So until the process we are doing it, where these data are saved, these data are saved in a stack memory. So here for us given number 5, we are taking this much of amount of memory. So if the number increases, the memory size also increases. Okay, so now what happened? This value is calculated. Right now we know what is the factorial of 0. So now it will be substituting 1 into 1. It will result as 1. So now what is the 1 here? Fact of 1 value is 1. Now what happened? 1 by 1 will be 1 by 1 value will be picked from your stack. So I believe that you people might have came across data structure. In data structure, you might have learned about the stack memory. In case of stack memory, what happened? What is the order of execution of stack memory? You might have learned about it, right? Last in, first out, first in, last out. What is the order for your stack memory? Last in, first out, or first in, last out? Come on, guys. Stack memory, what is it? Yes?
Last in, first out.
No data structure. Okay. For a few people are answering no data structure. No worries that I'll explain you guys. Your stack memory is simply like you're going to submit your notebook. So like assume that 10 people are submitting notebooks. Okay. So the person who is submitting the first notebook will be at the bottom. The last person who is submitting it will be at the top. The person who is submitting last, the particular data can be taken first. Okay, it will be the topmost. Simply we can say that your WhatsApp chat box. In your WhatsApp chat box, the person, those who are giving this particular, those who are sending the message just now, it will be at the top of it. The person who has sent a few hours before, it will be below to it, right? So all those things follows your stack memory. Your phone gallery, chat box, mailbox, all those things follows only stack memory. So the reason operation will be at the top, and the remaining element will be at the bottom. So when you're taking the element, when you're picking the element from your stack memory, you're supposed to take in the order last in, first out. We'll be saying as FIFO for a short identification. We'll be keeping this particular term as FIFO, LIFO, last in, first out. Whatever the data which is in last, that can be taken first. So the element at the last is, this is the last value. I'm going to take this one first. So 1 into 1 is going to give you 2. Again, so this state guys, we are taken out. So in case of stack, we'll be using two terms guys. For just taking a value, we'll be using pop. Pop in the sense deletion. Okay. Or remove a value. If you want to insert a value, we'll be mentioning push. Okay, just have this term in your mind. If you want to insert a data in your stack memory, I'll be mentioning as push, and I want to remove this operation, I'll be using pop. So first what happened, we know that what is the value of factor of 0. So this expression will be popped out from your stack and I'll be substituting it. I'll get 1. So what is 1? It is the value of factorial of 1 is 1. So now this is popped out. We know the value of factorial of 1. So based on that, I can able to find the factorial of 2. So 2 into factor of 1, 1. So this is popped out and a value is calculated. So we'll be finding factorial of 2 value is 2. Again, the same process is going to be continued. So again, the next process will be popped out. So 3 into fact of 2. Fact of 2 is 2. It will be substituted. So you'll be getting 6 as your answer. So now the next operation will be popped out. 4 into 6. You'll be getting 24. So now we know that what is the factor of 4. Now this will be substituted. Factor of 4 is 24. So you'll be getting 120 as your answer. This is how your factorial program works, guys, whenever you're going for a recursion. So until the process is completed, all this data will be stored in your stack memory. So once it reaches termination point, then one by one element will be popped out and we'll be just back substituting the value in it. Okay. So this is how the working flow of recursion occurs. Are you people clear with it? Clear with the flow of recursion? Do you have any doubt in it? Come on. Given a very basic program for you guys. Is this clear? If at all you have any doubt, no worries, ping me in the chat box or you can unmute and you can ask your doubts. So for majority of a program, we'll avoid using this particular recursion. The reason behind it is, so it will make use of huge amount of memory. So for a simple number, you'll be having this value, right? So the time complexity for factorial program will be too high. So maximum we'll avoid it when there is no other way. So we are supposed to use it. No other way is there, like merge sort, or when you're going with a queen problem or salesman problem, there are certain problems it can be solved only by using recursive approach. In those cases, we can make use of recursion. Apart from this, wherever we are going to implement very basic program or which can be done normally, it is always be you're supposed to use in some other logic apart from recursion. So when you use recursion, it will occupy a certain amount of memory to store the data in a stack. Where is the function call? Here. Here is a function call. Can you notice it? Return number into factorial of number minus 1. So what happened when this function call happens? Again, the control go back. So how will this factorial call? When this part is there, this particular logic will be taking a control back here. So instead of mentioning factorial, I have mentioned in a short form as fact. Don't confuse it. I have mentioned 5 into factorial of 5 minus 1. So factorial of 5 minus 1 will call factorial of 4. So this will be called again. So here is your function call. Here this is your function call. And this is your termination case. A termination case is this. Whenever it is less than 1, is a termination case. Is this clear? Shall I give you some task based on recursion? Will you try it? Come on, answer me.
Can you?
I couldn't get you. Just
Once
what you're
again,
saying?
ma'am.
Once again, you want to repeat
Share
it.
the screen
Okay.
in the program.
My screen is visible or not? Guys, I have
Visible.
mentioned this particular visible, right?
Program, ma'am, which you have written before.
Program you wanted. Okay, I'll share the program.
Yes.
Guys, just this part I have pasted there, guys. Nothing else. I have mentioned only main here. This code I have pasted there.
Ma'am, we need to give function call, call in int main function.
Yes, then only if you call here this function, this particular element will be invoked. SDF I told you, right? So this is the entry point of your program, and this is your exit point of your program. Here is your program entry starts, and this is the exit point. So whatever the function you have mentioned here, it has to be called. If you doesn't call it, you didn't call it, what happens? Nothing is going to happen. This function will never be executed. Okay, you can notice the output screen. An empty screen is displayed. Your process is completely empty screen. You can have as many functions in your program, but if you want the function to be invoked, it has to be called from your main function. So only when the function call is happening in a main function, this function call happens. Is this clear? Shall I give you one more program for you people? Will you try it? Come on, answer me. I'll help you, or no worries. I'll give very simple program. Shall we try? So when I say task, everyone is so quiet, huh? No worries, guys. Let me give you a small task, okay? So you're going to write a program for sum of digits. What is sum of digit? Have you ever came across it? Sum of digit. Yes, right? You have seen it. So like if the given value is like 145, what is the result of it? Sum of digits. 10, right? So I want you people to do this program by using recursion. Will you people do it? Okay, I'll do one thing. So instead of giving you directly, we'll first see the logic for it by using function. Very basic program, we'll see to it by using function. I'll give a task for you to convert this program as a recursion one. Okay, it'll be easy for you, right? So let me declare a main. Okay. So since we doesn't have sufficient time, I can't give you much time, right? So that's the reason. Let me give you the logic for it. I want you people to think how to convert this to recursion alone. Okay. So here, let me have like int number. We'll take the same the number 145, and we'll have a function call printf %d comma. We'll keep the function name as SOD, sum of digit. Okay. So we'll pass this number as a parameter. So here, let me mention int sum of digit. So let me receive this number. So let me remove this element. So I'm writing in a normal approach, guys, first, then you can go with a recursion. So somehow we are going to calculate the total summation of it. So let me declare one variable called sum and let me initialize to 0. This is done. So how can we do sum of digit? How can we do sum of this digit, guys? The given number is 145. So if I want to split it, I'm supposed to split this number like 1 plus 4 plus 5. I'm supposed to do it. So from which position splitting is very easy? Starting from left to right it is easy, or right to left it is easy? We are supposed to split this number one by one. This one, now digit by digit. So it is a 3-digit number. I'm supposed to split this number as digit by digit. How can we split it? Which is easy? Splitting from beginning is easy or end is easy?
End is easy. From end, ma'am.
From end is easy. So if you want to split 5, what should I do? If you want to take
percentile 10.
Percentile 10.
okay, modulo of it is going to give you 5. Okay. Again, I want to reduce this number. Now 5 is taken. The remaining number I want to take it. For this, what should I do?
145/10.
Divide by 10. So what happened? This number will be reduced to 14. So this process you are supposed to continue again and again. Okay, until which you are supposed to continue this process? So until which? What is the termination condition for it? So 1 modulo by 10 gives you 1 modulo by 10. 14 modulo by 10, 4. 1 modulo by 10,
0. 0.
0. 1 divided by 10, 0.
1.
1 modulo by 10,
1, 1, 1.
good. Guys, keep in mind, whenever you are doing modulo 1 to 9, here you can notice that you are trying to divide by 10, right? So 1 to 9, whatever the number you are doing modulo, you'll be getting the same number. So any number which is less than this number what you are trying to do modulo is going to give you the same number. Here we'll be getting 1. So at the next iteration, what happens? The given number will be trimmed to 0. That is your termination point. This is your termination point. The same condition what we have seen here, we are going to write it by using a looping here. So let me make use of while loop here. While the given number. So if at all you wanted, you can just place number not equal to 0, or it is not required that you can place like this itself. I'll let you know why. So if you give if number while number, if you give like this, what happened? Initially you will have 145, and next you will have 14, and next you will have 1, and next you will have 0. So in your condition part, not only in case of while loop, in all the conditions, so like condition in the sense, what I mean is in your while loop or in your for loop, in your while condition part, or in your for condition part, or in your if condition part, wherever it is, apart from 0, all the numbers are considered as true. 0 is considered as false. Any positive or negative number, when it is placed inside a condition part of while loop or for loop or if condition, is treated as true. Clear with it? So once it reaches 0, it will be treated as false. So that is the reason I'm saying that it is not required to mention not equals to 0. Literally, if you mention number, somehow you're going to decrease the value of a number, right? So at certain point, the number is going to become as 0. It will be considered as a termination point. Are you clear with this one? Is this clear, or do you want me to repeat again? Come on. Is this logic clear, guys? It is not required to mention it. Are you clear with this one? Say me yes or no.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So now what is that we are passing right now? 145 is passed. So first we are supposed to take the remainder value of it. What is this 5 here? We are taking a remainder value, right? So we'll declare. Same way we'll declare one variable called remainder. Meanwhile, okay. So let me mention remainder is equals to given number modulo division of 10. So now what happens? I'll be getting this 5. This 541, where it has to be added, it has to be added along with the sum. So you can mention sum plus assign remainder. And followed by it, what is it you're supposed to? A original number value has to be reduced. So you can mention divide by 10. So just I'm using arithmetic assignment operator, guys. I believe that you might have came across this. Number is equals to number divided by 10. It can be written like this. So what happened during a next iteration, the value of it could be reduced. The last value could have removed, and you'll be getting the remainder value, remaining value. So each and every time the value of this particular number will be reduced. So first the number value could be like 145. For next iteration could be 14. For next iteration it could be 1. For next iteration could be 0. Once it reaches 0, it is going to terminate it. So followed by it, at the end of the program, what is that we are supposed to return? We are supposed to return the sum as your output. Okay, let me execute it. So let me command this line. Okay, let me execute this. Why it is returning 0? Just a minute now. What happens?
And for condition for I, we should take some.
Condition for?
It should repeat, ma'am. For I is equal to 0.
No.
Ma'am,
Yes. What happened? Just a minute. I don't think so. There is some logical error. Everything is right. Just a minute. Let me print the sum value and check it. Here, guys, see, we missed one equal symbol. Do you people see to it? We missed one equal symbol. Sum plus equals to. We missed it. That's the reason it didn't update it. Okay, nothing else. Logic is right. So it is displaying 10 as the output. As per the given scenario, this could be 10. So it is displaying fine. Guys, don't think that you are supposed to use for loop or while loop. I should use a variable. No. What is that I'm doing here is this is what I explained here below. Is literally what I'm doing is first 145 I'm taking. I'm trying to listen carefully. 145 I'm taking. I'm trying to do modulo of it. I'll get 5 as a reminder. I'll do summation of it. Then I'm trying to reassign my number. If at all the statement is confusing, let me write it again like this. So what is that I'm doing is I'm reassigning the original number with number divided by 10. So it will become as 14. Initially our number is 45. For the second iteration, our number will become as 14. So again this 14 will be taken. Right now this 14 will be again done modulo operation. Now we'll get 4 as the answer as a reminder. So already the previous sum we might be having 5. So along with that 4 will be added. So initially sum value is 0. Along with 0 sum will be added. 5 will be added. So along with this calculated value 4 will be added. And again what happened, this particular number could have reduced to 1. Again modulo of it reminder will get 1 here. Okay, so along with this calculated value 1 will be added. Again number divided by 10. So 1 divided by 10 is going to give you 0. For next iteration our program terminates. If this is confusing, you can just place it here, no issues. So when it equals to 0, your program terminates. I'll come out of it. The summation of this could be stored in your sum. This is displayed as a result. Now is this clear with the sum of the digit? This is by using functions, guys. Generically I done by using function. I didn't use any recursion here. Is this logic clear for everyone? Come on. Do you have any doubt in it?
no, no, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Now I'm going to give you a small task. I want you people to change this program by using recursion. Make the same program implementation by using recursion. Just come on, make it 10. Once done, paste the code in the chat box. Just I don't want main at all, guys. I want only this function alone. Hardly the code could be of 4 lines. Okay, this main block alone has to be modified. Just 3 or 4 lines. It is not more than that. Make it faster. You're supposed to think about here the 2 cases, whatever I told you, recursive case and termination case. So if you are clear with these 2 cases, then our program will be easy. So when my program should be, when my recursive function call should happen, when my recursive function call should terminate it. And make it faster. Just make it done faster. Once done, post your code in chat box. I'll see to it. So our modification is this part has to be modified. What is the recursive case? So termination case followed by the recursive case. So by using termination case, it will be filled with if condition, and recursive case will be filled in else part. So this is what we did, right? Okay, you can place the same code like this also. If your number value equals to 0, we can place this code above. The program construction is up to you guys, okay? The rule is all about recursive case and termination case, these two only. So this is your termination case, recursive case. The same way, write for your recursive case and termination case. It is so simple. So whenever it reaches 0, termination, right? So whenever it is not there, recursive. The same way, think to it. So when should I terminate it and when should I do the function call again? The remaining structures are same. What happened? Everyone is so quiet. I given 5 minutes. The time is about to complete. Is this difficult? Come on. Answer me. What happened? Shall we see here? Guys, shall we discuss here? Are you people still trying? Respond me, guys. Can you people hear me?
This conference will now be recorded.
No worries, we'll discuss here. What is the termination point? Just answer for this alone. When you're going to terminate the sum of digit? Guys, a very
If
basic
number is
question.
greater than
When you're going to terminate it? Whenever the number is? When is
Equal
the
to 0 or
termination
less.
point? 0, right?
Equal.
Whenever it reaches 0 is the termination point. So here you can mention
not
this. If you can mention for not equal or equal, guys. It's completely up to you. Let me make it as equal, okay? Whenever my number value is equals to 0, until it reaches 0, okay? I'm going to stop my process. Whenever it reaches 0, I'm going to return 0. Until I reaches 0, what is that I should do is I should continuously do remainder of this number, right? So number modulo by 10 plus, what is it I'm doing? I'm taking modulo of it, which is literally this step. I'm taking modulo of it along with the modulo value. Again, you're trying to call the same function just by trimming the number. The last digit has been trimmed here, right? So this is what you're doing it. The same process I'm going to do here, plus I'm going to call the function here, sum of digit followed by the number. Is this clear? The same process what I did here. The previous, without using a recursion, we did it, right? So I'm just trying to divide by the modulo by number, plus I'm trimming the number and calling the function call. I'm having a function call again. So initially what happened, we'll have a same number, guys. Okay, it is very simple. I'll let you know. 145, we are going to take it. I'll check 145 equals to 0. It is not equal to 0. I'll come here. 145 modulo of 10 will give you 5. Plus sum of digit. Let me write down, guys. Okay, it will be easy for you people to understand. So 145 is taken. So 5. What is that you're going to do is you're going to mention 5 plus sum of digit of 145 divided by 10. The next function call happens. So this is a stack memory as I told. 14 is taken here. And again here what happened for 14. So you're going to take the last digit by doing modulo of it plus sum of digit of 14 divided by 10. So again the same function is called. So for this particular number 1, 14 divided by 10 is 1. So you're going to have a same function call. So here what is that? 1 plus sum of digit of 1 divided by 10. You're going to get 0. So right now the same function 0 is called with 0. So 0 will return 0 as your output. So now what is going to happen? So these data could have stored in your stack memory as I said earlier. So now substitution happens. 1 plus 0 gives you 1. Coming back step here. 4 plus sum of digit of 14. So sum of digit of 1, this 1, right? Sum of digit of 1, 4 plus 1 is going to give you 5. So here again. So again, what is going to happen is 5 plus sum of digit of 14. So what is the value of 14? It is 5. So 5 plus 5, it is 10. Is this clear? The same program are done by recursion. Those are to be executing. So there we used one variable for storing in a reminder. Then we are repeating a process. Here I am making use of the recursive call. This data is stored in your stack memory. Is this clear with the recursion concept? We have a lot of example for recursion, guys. Okay, I'll give you some task for you at the end of the session. You can just have a practice of it. So by next session, if you have doubt on it, you can ask to me. I'll help you out. So till this audio clear with the recursion, we have seen two programs. One program is by using factorial and other program is by using sum of digit. So this is how your recursion works. It might be either a simple logic or a complex logic. Whatever the logic it might be, the process will be executed until it reaches termination point. Once it reaches termination point, then you're going to pop one by one element, then you're going to substitute it. Is this clear? Come on, respond me. Shall we move on to next concept? Clear. Okay, fine. And next one, we are going to start with sorting concept. Sorting and searching is left over. We start with sorting. So when we say sorting, what are the different types of sorting technique available? What are the different kinds of sorting available, guys? Come on, you might have came across it, right? No idea.
Merge
Bubble
sort,
sort,
merge
okay.
sort, insertion sort.
Insertion sort. Okay, selection sort, insertion sort. Then
Quick sort.
Bubble sort.
okay, quick sort. Anything else? Merge sort, heap sort. Okay, so these are there are a lot of sorts are there, bucket sort and so on, so a lot of sorts are there. So for you people, this is sufficient, guys. So when you're speaking with sorting, which sorting would be efficient one? Somehow when you're dealing with sorting, somehow all the sorting technique is going to give you same result. Okay, fine. So vector concept, after function, I'll check with him. Okay, so I'll check with him. So as per you're saying vector concept, but as per discussion after this, they told me that it will be like function, recursion, sorting, and searching. I'll just check with them. Okay, I'll check with them whether vector concept, vector concept in case of C++. Okay, I'll check with them. Okay, I'll check with them. By tomorrow's session, I'll let you know. Okay, now we'll continue with sorting technique. I'll check with them once. Okay, listen here. So here, those are the different type of sorting technique available. So somehow we are going to get the same output. For all those things, we are going to get the same output like sorted array. So whatever the order we are specifying, either ascending or descending order, whatever the order we are going to specify, the particular order is going to arrange it. But when we are comparing with the efficiency, which algorithm is more efficient? Any idea about it? Which is the efficient algorithm among these? Come on, no idea. The efficient one is merge sort and heap sort are efficient algorithm. Compared to all the algorithm, these two have the equal efficiency. And after this, quick sort will have the next priority, and these three, all these three will have the order of n squared as its complexity. So when you're dealing with each and every algorithm, I'll say you about the complexity, guys. So just know, have an idea about it. Heap sort and merge sort will have the equal complexity level. So which is the more efficient one? When you're speaking about the efficient algorithm, merge sort and heap sort are more efficient. The remaining sorting techniques, your quick sort is also efficient, but in case of worst case, it is not efficient. In average case and case of best case, it is efficient. When you're going for worst case, quick sort is not efficient. That is the reason the first priority I'm giving for merge sort and heap sort. And the remaining sorting algorithm will have order of n square as its complexity. Now we'll go ahead with one by one. The first one is all about bubble sort. So what is the sorting technique for bubble sort? What is the technique used here?
Temp variable, ma'am.
Okay, temp variable. Okay, fine. What is that we are going to do here? How is that we are going to implement this? There will be some concept behind it, right? What is the concept? Come on. Guys, what happened? It is all about, we are supposed to compare the adjacent values. So for each and every sorting algorithm, we are having a technique. We are going to see to it. So in case of bubble sort, we are going to compare the adjacent values and we are going to swap it. So let me take the Excel here. Okay. So here we'll take a group of values. We'll take a group of values like, let me take 10, 3, followed by 15, and I'll take like 8, some value, random values. Okay, 3, 12, and let us take 1. Okay, we'll take these values. So let me mention 14 here. Okay, so we'll take this as your element of the array. We'll take this as the element of the array. Here right now we are going to implement bubble sort algorithm. Okay, this is all about bubble sort. In case of bubble sort, what is that we are going to do is we are going to compare the adjacent values. So this is the origin array. So let me have a copy of it here. So here, what is that you're going to do is you're going to compare first two elements. So let me write the index position of it. Index position of it could be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what is the n value here? N is the size of it. Size is 7 here. What is that you're going to do is you're going to compare the adjacent values. So at the first comparison, I'm going to check which value is greater. For example, let us assume this is 14 and this is 10. Okay. 14 followed by 10. So I'm going to compare it whenever the first value is greater than this one. So what is that you're going to do is you're going to make a swap of it. So I'm checking whether 14 is greater than 10. Yes, if it is so, I'm going to make a swap of it. So here there is some reason began mentioning step by step, guys. Here you're supposed to consider about number of passes required and number of iteration required. That is the reason I'm just showing you step by step. Listen carefully. So this happens. And for the next iteration, what happens is the next element will be compared. The next two element is going to be compared here. Here, what is it going to compare? 14 greater than 15. My condition is false. So no swap. Whenever my condition is false, no swap. Whenever condition is true, swap happens. So again, for the next iteration. Okay, for the next iteration, next two value will be taken. So this is a very important step in case of bubble sort. Adjacent value is going to be taken. Right now, 15 is compared with 8. Right now, your condition is true. When your condition is true, what happens? Swapping happens. Okay, when your condition is true, swapping happens. 8 comes here, 15 goes here. So again, your next iteration. So let me explain you 2 cycle alone, guys. Okay, if you explain entire cycle, it will be time consuming. So let me explain you the two tricycle process alone. So here the next two values is going to be compared. So right now what happened? 15 is greater than 3. Condition is compare. Condition is true. Okay. If the condition is true, what's going to happen is the swap happens. 3 comes here. 15 goes here. So again. So now what happened? Your pointer will be moving to the next two element. So just a minute. So your pointer will be moving to the next two element. Right now these two values are compared, like 15 greater than 12. Yes, a condition is true. So what happened? 12 comes here and 15 goes here. Again. So now what happened? These two values is going to be compared. So my condition is true. So what is that? 15 greater than 1. Condition is true. So what happens? Swap happens. So 1 comes here and 15 goes here. So at last what happened? We got the one element sorted in this program. What is that? The value which is the larger one we brought to the exact position. So we brought this 15 to the exact position. This is the position of 15, we brought it. So this is how we publish our works. At the end of year, first pass. So we'll be mentioning as a passes. Okay, let us assume this is your first pass. At the first pass, let us calculate how many iterations is made. This is your first iteration, second iteration, third iteration, fourth iteration, fifth iteration, sixth iteration. So how many iteration is made? At the first pass, you are doing 6 iteration and you are bringing the larger value, overall larger value to its appropriate position. So how many elements are there? The size of your array is 7, but how many passes, how many iteration it is taking? The number of iteration taken is 6 iterations. Okay, at the first pass, it will take 6 iteration to bring the larger element to its appropriate position. Okay, this is the result of your first pass. Now keeping this as your initial value, now your second pass happens. I'm explaining very slowly, guys, step by step. If I'm making you clear with 2 steps, all the other step is a repeated one. That is the reason I'm going very slowly. Okay, right now this is your second pass. This is your pass 2. So now we'll have a calculation of it. So just a minute. Just give me a minute. Let me move the screen here. Okay. So let me bring this little aside so it will be easy for us to write the calculation of it. Now again, we are supposed to start from the beginning only. So again, these two values will be compared. Okay, again here, what is it you're going to compare? 10 with 14 is compared. 14 is, I'll compare whether 10 is greater than 14. The condition is false, no changes. Again, this value I'm going to mention here. Okay, the same value will be there, no changes. But what happened? Our pointer will be moving to the next step. So when I move the next step, what happened? The next two value will be compared. So here what is compared? 14 and 8 is compared. 14 greater than 8. My condition is true. When the condition is true, what happened? 8 comes here, 14 goes here. So again, the same process will be repeated. Just a minute, each and every time. So right now, I'm going to compare 14 with 3. So 14 is greater, right? So 3 comes here, 14 goes here. Okay, so now I'm going to compare 14 with 12. 14 greater than 12. Yes, condition is true. So 12 comes here and 14 goes here. So again, this process is going to be continued here. So here, the next two values is going to be compared. No fill, and here, let me compare these two. So right now, 14 is compared with 1. Yes, 14 is greater. So 1 comes here, 14 comes here. So again, 14 and 15 will never be compared. This is an important key point I'm thought of saying you people. Listen carefully. once this data is sorted, we are not going to disturb the particular element. So previously, our iteration might be starting from 0th position to 6th position. So we might have gone till this particular point, right? So here right now, we are not supposed to go to the end. The reason behind it is already the element at the particular position is sorted. The element at this position is sorted. You are not supposed to disturb it. Okay, so here we'll count the iteration. This is your first iteration, second iteration, third iteration, fourth iteration, fifth iteration. So for the second pass, how many iteration is happening? Only 5 iteration is happening. Okay, so here at the end of the second pass, what does we achieve? We have achieved that the last 2 element has been sorted. The last 2 element has been brought to the appropriate position, and this has been sorted. Okay, for a next iteration, what is that you're supposed to do? You're supposed to iterate only from here to here. Okay, so I'm not going to write it, just let me paste here alone. Okay, so here next is your pass 3. Keep on goes like this, guys. Okay, and next is your pass 3. How many iteration might be taken? It is all about 4 iterations. This will be iterating continuously like this. So for each and every time, what is it we are supposed to do? We are not supposed to disturb the element which is already sorted. So here, how many iteration you are going? The element is n value. So how many iteration? So it is taking as n minus 1 iteration. For the first pass, it is doing is n minus 1 iteration. For second pass, it is n minus 2 iteration. Isn't it? Guys, you are with me? For the first pass, I'm doing n minus 1 iteration. It is 7 minus 1, 6 iteration. For the second pass, how many iteration is going? N minus 2 iteration we are going. And for the third pass, we'll be having n minus 3 iteration. It keep on goes like this. So we people might be having one doubt. How many passes does it goes? The number of passes taken place is n minus 1 passes takes. So if the given number is 7, 6 passes goes. N minus 1 is the number of passes, and for each and every process, how many iteration taken? For the first iteration, n minus 1, for second iteration, n minus 2, for third iteration, n minus 3. Is this logic clear? Bubble shot logic clear for everyone? Come on, answer me. Are you people clear with the bubble shot? Okay, fine. So how is this algorithm
Yes,
going
ma'am.
to be? How? Okay. So shall we construct this algorithm? So I thought of giving you this as a task. Okay. How can we construct this algorithm? Let me type here. Just you can just answer me alone. Okay. If I give time, that is not sufficient. Hardly we are having only 10 minutes of time. So let me type it here. Okay. So during typing, just I'll ask you people. You can let me know. Okay. Just a minute now. Let me take the screen. Okay. So here we'll take the new screen here. Let us save this file. Here it is bubble shot, right? The same way, guys, if you understand each and every algorithm and you're doing the logic of it, will be very easy so that you can do any program based on the particular algorithm. So don't ever mug up any algorithm. Just try to understand it, how it is working. Okay. So here, let me have a function like bubble shot. Okay, let me mention int star array. It is always wiser to write a program by using function. The reason is in your competitive exam, majority of your exams you'll be having only using functions. Okay, so whenever you're practicing program, practice by using function, guys. So return 0. So here, let me declare an array. Let me have a values here like 9, 2, 1, like 7, 8. Some values, okay, and followed by int n. So what are the number of values here? 3, 6 are there, right? So let me write 6 as a size. So here let us have a function called bubble short of array comma n. So let me write these things as here. I'm passing here, I'm receiving it. And here is the logic. So here, what we are going to traverse it. So here you can notice that this particular algorithm. So first what you are doing is starting from beginning till this, so if at all you want to arrange this data till this data, I'm not going till this. My point is starting from 0 till 5, that is sufficient, isn't it? My start pointer might start here, until this it is sufficient. The reason is I'm just checking with the adjacent value. Whenever you're checking with the adjacent value, so if my pointer is there, I'll be checking these two values, isn't it? If I go to the last point, what happened? If I go to the last point, there is no more element after this. There is no element here, 7th question. So somehow our comparison is going to start with 0. Our iteration is going to start from 0 to, we are going to go till n minus 1. Right? This could be the boundary of it, which is less than n. To 0 to less than n. That is the boundary I'm going to go here. Each and every time I'm going to go start from 0 to n minus 1 is our boundary. So we're going to write a loop here. For our iteration, let me declare two variables. One is I, and let me declare one more variable called j for our iteration. So here, let me mention I value starts with 0. Okay, until I less than n. That is my termination condition. I less than n followed by I plus plus. So inside this, here is the important point. The number of iteration which you are going to consider. The particular person is managed by those using J loop. I'll let you know what is that. J loop starts with your 0th position always. The reason here is each and every time where you're starting at the past one, I'm starting with the 0th position. Even for your past 2, you're starting with the 0th position, right? So each and every passes, every time you're going to start with 0th position, somehow where you're restricting. Our restriction is all about the end point. Always you're not reaching till the end. Each and every time the number of values I'm reaching to the end is varying. For the first iteration, for the first pass, the number of iteration is n minus 1. For second pass, the number of iteration is n minus 2. Only at here it is varying. It is not varying at the beginning. So here I'm going to start from 0 and my termination point will be j less than n. So always not till the end of it, right? So always it is till n minus 1, n minus 2. It is first pass it is n minus 1. Second pass it is n minus 2. Third pass it is n minus 3. It will keep on going, right? So here at the first pass, okay, look at the first pass. For first pass, I'm starting with 0 till which I'm going. I'm going only till 5. I'm not going till the end. I'm going only till 5. So what is the termination condition here is starting from 0 till n minus I is for your first pass. So n minus 1 is your first pass. Okay. So what is the condition? Starting from 0 till less than n minus 1. I'm supposed to go only till 5. Okay. So when you're going to write for the remaining passes, so it is, so n minus, you're just going to go to, by default you mentioned 0 to 5, no issues. Here what is it you're supposed to mention? N minus, so here you're going to go till n minus 1 and here n minus 1, 2, right? So along with minus 1, you're supposed to add minus 1. So it will become as n minus 2. So for the next iteration, you'll have n minus 3. So here for this, what we can do here is, we can just mention minus I. For the first iteration, your I value will be 0. So n minus 1 time the first pass it will be going. For your second pass, it will go from, your I value will be 1. So n minus 2 times. For a third pass, your J value, your I value will be 3. So n minus, the value keep on increases gradually, guys. As I say that n minus 1, n minus 2, gradually it is going to be increased. So I value is is depending on it. So you can just write a condition like this, n minus 1 minus I. I'm repeating this one. This is very important. The reason behind it is once the data is sorted here, we are not supposed to disturb this one. Only for the remaining part, we are going to find it. Starting from 0 till this termination condition. Here two data are sorted. So we'll be going only till n minus 2. The size minus 2 could be our iteration. Okay. So this is what I mentioned here. Termination condition is mentioned here, followed by j++. This is done. So inside this, what is that we are going to do is we are going to write the. So here we are supposed to write a swapping logic. So we are going to compare the adjacent value, right? So here we are supposed to compare if array of j is greater than array of j plus 1. So if it is greater, what is that we are supposed to do? We are supposed to perform swap operation. You can just declare a variable called temp. We can mention array of j, same way, array of j equals to array of j plus 1. Okay, same way, array of j plus 1 equals to temp. Okay, you can just a very basic swap operation, guys. That's it. Our logic is completed. Can you able to understand this logic here? So just this is very important. This is going to execute till n minus 1 passes. So that is the reason I mentioned this I less than n. Here for each and every passes, how many iteration you are supposed to go? That is the reason I mentioned this n minus I minus 1. This is mentioned here, and followed by it. If at all you want to display the content, I'm just mentioning I is equals to 0, I less than n value followed by I plus plus. And here you can just print your data. Print percentage %d, comma, array of I. Okay, we'll execute it. So what happened here? What is the mistake? Main is throwing error. Yes, here in this particular curly braces, there is a problem with it. So here, this is open. So here for if condition, we will mention it, right? Yes. Now it will be fine.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am,
Yes, ma, just
here we took j is less than n minus 1 minus I now, ma'am. From the Excel sheet, you can say that, for example, something, if we take some value of j and I.
Yeah, where you're asking Excel sheet, yes.
Ma'am, we are
Tell
having
me.
I and j now, ma'am, variables. For example, in the past one, when we are iteration 2, how it applies, I'm asking.
So here this part you're saying, this one I can understand. Past one, this one, second iteration.
Yes, ma'am.
This one you're asking for. Okay,
Yes,
fine.
ma'am.
Okay. So here we are having one loop called I loop, right? This I loop is going to concentrate on number of passes. You're going to have one J loop. This is going to concentrate on this number of iteration. So look at here, our J loop is going to start from 0 till n minus 1 minus I. So here our J loop is going to start from 0 to n minus 1 minus I. So I value is also 0. So literally our J loop is going to go to 0 to n minus 1, n value is 7. So 6 minus 0. So it is 6 are mentioned here, right?
I is 1,
so,
ma'am, passing.
Which one? I value is 0. At the first pass, I value is 0.
Okay.
Only at the second pass, I value becomes as 1.
Sorry, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
0,
From
1, 2,
0
3.
to 1, 2, 3. Okay.
So I value will be 0 throughout the execution of the first pass. Can you able to understand? So I value will be 0 for the
Okay,
first
ma'am.
pass. For the second pass, I value is 1.
First
Okay.
one. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Here, one more thing, guys. I mentioned 0 to 6, right? So look at the condition. I mentioned less than. I didn't mean that less than or equal to. So I mean only less than here. So what does it mean? The calculated value is 6. Somehow it is going to go to 0 to less than 6. So what does it mean is 0 to 5. I'm going to iterate it. So 0 to 5. I'm going to have a comparison only till this. So 0 to 5 in this sense, it will come only till this. So when your cursor comes here, 5th and 6th value will be compared. Okay, this is very much important, guys. 0 to 6 in this sense literally mean that less than 6. 0 to less than calculated value 6. So here I'm taking j with j plus 1. When it comes to 5th position, 5 plus 6th
Ma'am,
position
six
value will be
also will be
taken.
not.
What happened? Yes,
And then if it is less than 6, 6 is also not considered, no, ma'am.
yes, 6 will not be considered. Only until 5th position is going to compare. 5 and 5 plus 1. So inside your if condition, look at here. When a j value reaches 5, it will be 5 and 5 plus 1. Got it? No?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am,
See here,
it,
0 to 5, right?
ma'am, Excel sheet, ma'am.
Excel, okay.
Ma'am, J value is at iteration, no, ma'am.
Yes, j value is all about iteration. It'll just where you're going to stop it. Starting from 0 till this, I'm going to iterate it.
Yes, ma'am. We are having in pass 1, we are having 6 iterations, no, ma'am.
6 iterations. Starting from 0 to 5, 6 iteration.
Okay,
What is
ma'am. 0 to
confusing?
5.
0 to 5.
Oh, ma'am. I thought that we are having here iterations as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No. 0 to 5.
Okay, ma'am.
Is it clear?
Clear, ma'am.
Guys, any more doubt? So this is the concept all about bubble shot, guys. So the two important step here is this is all about swapping. Very simple. This is too important for loop. This is too important for loop plays a major role here. So until how much passes you're going to go and how many iteration for each and every passes. Okay, fine. I believe that it is clear, right? No more doubts. If you have any doubts, you can let me know. Is it clear?